How you doing? My name is Patrick Cooper, and I'm a freshman here at Millikan. And my topic that I'm going to speak about is the Vietnam War and the significance it holds in history today. And I have my crowd here, ready to be informed, And I'll give you a quick little visual aid of what was going on in the war. It was pretty gruesome, as you can see. A lot of bodies, a lot of killing, a lot of gore going on, as you can see. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So uh, the Vietnam War, it actually is a lot longer than a lot of people think. It started back in 1954, and lasted all through 1975. It started out as in 1954, the the Northern Vietnamese, known as the Viet Cong, they defeated France for the fight, and they gained independence for Vietnam. Um, yeah, they defeated, and right after that, Vietnam split into two, North and South Vietnam. It's because of the fact that the North wanted a unified country, meaning they would all be led under one leader, and but it'd be the downside would be that it would be led by communism, and the South wanted a democracy. So us as American people, we decided to join in an involvement to stop the spread of communism. That originally stemmed from the Cold War, which we were at the time fighting with the Soviets, and we as American people, we supplied weapons, troops, uh, military personnel such as generals and and generals and people who's supposed to lead us, and it came with a lot of publicity here in the States, even because at the time not a lot of people knew what Vietnam was, and at the time we were going through this big quote unquote hippie movement that was kind of holds place now, which is another subject. And so yeah, we supplied a lot of weapons and a lot of troops to help the South Vietnamese with their fight against North Vietnamese. And one of two weapons that that were used in the war was the AK-47 used by the North, supplied by the Soviet Union. Go figure. And South Vietnam and the Americans used the M16, which gave them a lot of problems with jamming and stuff. It was a little heavier gun, a little tougher to pull around because it's a bigger gun, bigger clips and stuff like that. The major turning point in the war was the Tet Offensive. Lasted from January 30th, 1968 to September 23rd, 1968. It was a military effort brought on by the North, and it was one of their attempts to finally end the war and take control of all of Vietnam, push the Americans out. They failed militarily, but they passed in a psychological and political viewpoint of the war, just because of the fact that the Vietnam War, the publicity was different from any war before, because the people back at home could see what was going on in the news and how we were losing soldiers, and so America's military started losing support from the people. We started a lot of protests and riots and this and that. That's because we were fighting a war that shouldn't have been ours, and so after so long fighting, America finally left Vietnam in March 23rd, 1973. We decided to withdraw from the war, and we left South Vietnamese to fight for themselves without any of our support. Mm. Some of the results from the Vietnam War. Uh, you could say that the Americans and the South Vietnamese, we won from a military standpoint where we had less people killed on our side and less prisoners of war, and just like the fighting standpoint of the war. But the North Vietnamese, they won a political victory. They won a political victory, and so they ended up winning psychological standpoint of the war, and they were able to control all of Vietnam and set up their communism government structure. And but the entire point for us to be the Americans to be involved in the war was to stop the spread of communism, quote unquote, which you can argue that we done so, just because not all of Asia was became communistic, just certain parts. So you can argue that it was kind of a victory. It was also kind of a loss. And yeah, that's the Vietnam War. Thank you.